singer-songwriter, reality star, but you're talking with us for Bust and on the podcast today about grooming and about your experience with child marriage. When you were 16, you were married to your teacher, actor, Doug Hutchison. He was 4 years older than your father, who walked you down the aisle.
Yeah.
So you were a 10th grader. You didn't know how to drive.
No.
Couldn't open a bank account. You couldn't get a wine cooler. Couldn't get a Costco card even.
Right.
Last year, what can you tell me about that day, the day of your wedding in Nevada? Like, how were you feeling?
Oh my God, that was so long ago. 10 years ago. Wow. It's so funny when I think back at these moments. I feel like I remember it in a skewed way. And I think that has to do with being a child. When you look back, like when you're a kid and your brain wasn't developed yet, you have kind of like a different way of remembering it. And for me, I just kind of like remember bits and pieces. I kind of just remember like getting up and feeling excited. I wasn't nervous. I didn't feel like I didn't want to do it. I just was like, okay, so I was almost on autopilot. So this is what I'm doing today. And then I just kind of remember like very vaguely going through the steps of getting married. And I do remember that I was really, really, really worried that I was gonna mess up somehow. I mean, I think that's like almost like like a kid, right? You just don't want to mess up. And I know that it was so much different for Doug, like his memory of the situation. He was just very like, it's power imbalance. It's such a power imbalance. And so I just kind of remember like, I don't know, like bits and pieces. And I was just really nervous and way in over my head. It shouldn't have happened.
And he had said in an interview that you met through mutual friends. So I'm curious, how is that possible? A 16-year-old in Seattle, how would you have mutual friends with a 50-year-old actor in Hollywood?
He was teaching acting classes in LA. So I was aspiring to do music. I always wanted to do music, but my mom went to school with a mutual friend with Doug. And so that's where the mutual friend thing kicked in. And this person was very excited to help my mom, help me. He was in the music industry, and he said, I know this guy in Los Angeles. He was in the Green Mile. He's teaching acting classes, and I think it would be great for Courtney. So that's what happened. And then we started emailing each other, and the grooming took place immediately during that, the email exchanges.
And you've said before that your mom had monitored those emails.
She was monitoring the emails, yes. It was under her watch.
The media portrayal was pretty vicious. They painted you like this child bride, like sex witch.
I think they were focusing on the child. I think society was kind of like, now we can, I don't know, like not look at the person who should be looked at as the 51-year-old, but they chose to zoom in and focus in on me. And that was so much pressure because I was a child, and then I also felt responsible for the situation. And it's scary that this was only 10 years ago, because if this went on today, I don't know if it would be acceptable, right? But they just chose to focus in on me, and I was the target of everyone's negativity. But I am really hopeful because I'm seeing so much of a change now, and I'm seeing so much of an awakening in society. And I think it's so important to talk about where we were as a society 10 years ago versus today, and question ourselves, would we treat a child this way again? Because this happens all the time. This grooming thing happens all the time, and it's happening today, which is really scary.
And you bring up a really good point about accountability and how you were held to a higher degree of standard. than your husband at the time was. And, you know, when I watched the footage of Dr. Drew and Father Albert, I think even too, like years ago when I saw it on TV, it was really upsetting to me then. And now that I'm older, it's even more upsetting because like you said, you know, your brain doesn't develop until a certain time. Like your prefrontal cortex is about 25, 30, depending on which is your decision-making part of your brain. And that's why we have laws like you can't marry children, and you can't rent a car until you're 25 because you're going to crash it. Like all those laws are there for a reason. And when I rewatched some of it, like I said, it was particularly really upsetting. And I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about Dr. Drew's show.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that he's a doctor, right? Right? You would have a 16-year-old on your show, a child, and search for cosmetic surgery. I mean, now I kind of just ask myself, why does it even matter if I did have cosmetic surgery? I mean, it's a child. I didn't. It was proven on national TV that I didn't have any cosmetic surgery. But, you know, there they were poking around at my tits, 16 years old on TV. And I don't know if that would happen today.
I want to say no, but then, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's why we should, you know, talk about it. But yeah, it was traumatizing, really. You know, the whole thing was very traumatizing.
it was like having the doctor examine you. He was accusing you of lying at first.
I think, yeah, that they were thinking that there were implants in there or something, and it just turned out to be my muscle. But it's like it's a child, and I was, in a sense, I feel like Doug was kind of like a conservator in a way, because when I got married, I suddenly was like, you know, because he was a failed actor, and then we started getting all these offers, and then I was kind of, it kind of fell on my shoulders, like I had to do these things to, I don't know, earn a paycheck or whatever. So, and again, I didn't know how to write a check. I didn't know how to do any of that. I didn't manage any of the money I made. It went straight to him and to managers and stuff. So I would just kind of like have to do these things. And, you know, children don't really think about repercussions. I just, so,
I'm happy to hear you say to describe him in this way, like his career, because when you met him, now you're expressing it like he was a failed actor. But at the time, not even that long ago, you were taking a lot of blame. You were saying it was your fault that things weren't working out for him. And I'm really happy to hear you say that today, because I definitely wanted to challenge you on that.
Girl, you don't have to challenge me. I am woke and I'm exhausted, and I've come to a lot of realizations. And I'm an adult now, you know, even though it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I was so close to being groomed. I was so close to the source of the toxicity. I was so brainwashed. I was so, you know, just whatever he would tell me, I would believe. And I think that that's the source of grooming, right? That's what happens. But no, you don't have to challenge me. I am woke. I know exactly what happened to me. And I'm now just starting to kind of go through the healing process of that.
And I imagine like being in the pandemic and having all this time with yourself and isolation, and since you only legally were divorced last year, that would give you some time to rethink everything.
Definitely. I mean, right when the pandemic hit, my divorce finalized, and lucky me, I was like, okay, now I'm divorced and I guess I have to go lock myself in the house. But I think it was definitely a good thing for me, because it forced me to look at all of that, you know, the history of my traumas. And then in doing that, I started writing my book, which was really an eye opener. A lot of realizations came in writing, and I'm still writing. It's very therapeutic. So yeah, definitely the pandemic helped me a lot. It's scary that there is still, I think it's what, 30 some states where child marriage is illegal.
46
states. It's just insane. Like, that is insane that there's loophole in pedophilia, really, is how I feel.
You had said something really that struck me on Dr. Drew, when he was speaking to you both and asking Doug, like, okay, well, why not wait? Why not date for a while? Wait till she's 18, right? And you had said, you interjected with, quote, because that's dangerous. If we dated, he could be put in jail.
That's very true. I think that my father would have done something about it. I feel like my father felt very pigeonholed into making the decision to walk me down the aisle. He didn't have to walk me down the aisle, but my mother is the one who signed off on the paper. And they were in a really vulnerable state in their marriage. And I think that he just kind of like, I don't know, I think he just felt like it was going to happen anyway. But I do think that if we wouldn't have gotten married, he probably would have done something. I'm not sure, but I think there was a chance. But yeah, if we wouldn't have gotten married, I mean, yeah. But like I just said, it's a loophole. That paperwork, that piece of paper is a loophole. Right? You think that your parents are doing the best that they know how, and I think that given the situation and given my parents, they did the best they could. I don't really think that they, I don't believe in looking back and playing God and, changing things. I just think that they did the best they could in the situation. That's what they did. But that's what they did.
Does a child sign the marriage license, or is it just the parent?
I just remember I had so much to like worry about. Like I was getting ready to lose my virginity that night. I mean, there was a lot of other things than like, I wasn't worried about the paperwork. I knew my mom was going to sign it. Like she said she was going to sign it and she signed it. I don't think that I signed a lot of things, but there were a lot of different emotional things going on in my brain at the time, given my age.
Did you feel as a 16-year-old like this was too much too fast at that moment?
I was so overwhelmed. I mean, I can't express that enough. I was so overwhelmed. I was so just wanting to do everything right. I wanted to not look like a kid. I wanted to look like a grown ass woman. I wanted to just be just have the perfect day for me, for him. A lot of it was for him. I was just so like, I don't know. I wasn't like really, I don't think I was processing it in the way that an adult would, obviously.
It's interesting you say that too, like you wanted to be a woman. And like, I remember, seeing images of you when you're 16, 17, and thinking to myself, I don't understand the venom towards Courtney. And I see this as a person who I can relate to, who is a kid and feels like they're cosplaying as a woman. And I mean that it's the most respectful way. Like it felt like, when you're growing up and you're learning what beauty is or what sexy is to you, and you're trying things out and experimenting.
It's funny. I was listening to the band Lit. And
yes.
And the song Miserable came on and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if you remember that music video, but it's Pamela Anderson eating men.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I remember I was like 14 and I thought, that is a really good look. And so I thought to myself, I'm gonna like get those shoes, because those shoe scenes, like platforms and the hair and the makeup. And I was like, I'm gonna dress up like that. And it never left. It never left. So it was a really funny memory that I had. And I don't know, thank you, Pam. That was my look. And I thought that was what a woman looked like. And so I tried really hard to emulate that. It never really left.
I thought of Pam and I was like, I wonder if she was a
It was that video. It was that Miserable video, which just like stuck with me. I was like 14. So yeah, I think like on my wedding day, I woke up fresh and early and I had to put on that whole Pam outfit. And I felt like that was a woman.
Pam would do like frosted lips, the armband, or like the barbed wire tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah. But mine was like a snake. I had this like snake, and I thought that that was like really womanly, very like Eve. So I was like, I would always wear that. But yeah, I would wear this like combat suit. I feel like it was like a combat outfit.
Yeah, like armor. And makeup
Yeah.
feels like armor sometimes. It feels like something
Oh,
you.
so yeah. Yeah, you're right. Mhm.
Still have the armband?
No, but I have a version of it. It's like up in my closet. I have it kind of like on the door.
One other very upsetting thing to me I want to bring up, and then we can talk about happier things or sad things. The hilariously unfunny Funny or Die.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot watch Seinfeld the same way after seeing that.
Oh, that is so funny. My boyfriend and I were laying in bed like the other night, and I was having kind of like a little bit of like I don't know, like a panic attack, like a feeling you can't breathe. I don't know. So he's like, I know, let me put on something relaxing. He puts on Seinfeld. I'm like, what are you doing? You're trying to kill me.
It's like, it's the summer of George.
Oh my God. It was just like, I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, that was a really crazy experience. I mean, what was I, like 17 on that show? And I did a few skits with Funny or Die, but oh my God, that Jason Alexander thing, I don't know why that happened. I don't know why they thought that was okay. I don't know. I think like morally speaking, right? Why it was okay. Just like, Jason Alexander rubbing his phone on my breast and and then by my head and saying, oh, there's nothing here, and then going back down to my boobs, and then later saying that he can't wait till I'm 18 to come back so he can have his way with me behind the couch. I mean, I was like 17. I just turned 17. Yeah. Yeah, it's really formed the way that I process men now. I think like the way I process men is like I'm I hate men, but like I love men at the same time. Such a conundrum, but for me, I just like it's just processed. It's just made me process men so differently, and I can't even. I just think about when I have a child and that child is 16. I mean, I just worry about what I'm gonna be feeling. I think that a whole nother layer of me is gonna like show itself. And yeah, it's just scary that like this was 10 years ago, and Jason Alexander it was his job to rub his phone on my tits and nothing in my brain, and just I don't know. It's so wrong. It's just so wrong. It's so icky and wrong. I don't know.
So disgusting. I had never seen it, but just in doing research and like pulling things up, and I was like, oh, you did a Funny or Die sketch? You just turned 17. I think it was 2012. And it felt like these out of touch old men
Yeah.
like writing like these stupid fucking sketches it's just like was this way of like verbal masturbation, like they were punished for being attractive and degrade you at the same time. It was like, we're gonna like call them stupid but cloak it as a joke.
And everyone was laughing on set. I can guarantee everyone was just cracking up, and I was I was slut shamed as a child. And yeah, I mean, can you imagine what that does to someone's self-esteem, to someone's self-worth, self-esteem? It's been a lot for me to try to like overcome that. I'm still trying every day. Because your brain is forming at that age, and these are like your relationships with men and with the world. Really, for me, it was the world, because it was internationally being mocked. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, these are respected people. These are respected artists in like
Mm-hmm.
huge television shows or huge movies. And I mean, it hurt me just to see it. Like just even looking at my notes, my eyes just got kind of wet, like remembering watching that, because it's happening, you know, to you physically, but you feel that connection to the person, and you know that it would feel awful. And
Yeah.
your husband at the time, Doug, how did he respond to this? Was he concerned?
No, he's collecting money. Really. I mean, he was, at the end of the day, would collect his paycheck.
And it's important, like you said, like talking about grooming and people really understanding what that looks like, because it can be really insidious and hard to define sometimes.
You need to listen to yourself. I mean, no matter what is coming at you, or who's in your life, I really think that listening to yourself is the best medicine. Like, just listen to yourself, and um sometimes when your gut's telling you something, it's true and you should listen to it. But yeah, it's really hard to identify grooming. It's really, really difficult too, because I mean, I've just heard recently, like, some people go their entire life without knowing that they were groomed and thinking it was love. And I'm so grateful that, like, I'm the kind of person who listens to myself, apparently, and I was able to identify it. But I think too, keeping really good people around you, and again, that's really hard sometimes to know who's good, who's not, who's grooming you, who's not. But again, I think that listening to yourself is the number one key to healing and self-love.
That's a big part of emotional intelligence and maturity, is like learning to listen to that space more than you listen to somebody else talking you out of it.
Yeah, and that's a part of grooming, right? Like, that's like when you're trying to tell someone who you trust how you're feeling, and they're just pushing back, or you're feeling pushed back or something. They're not really nurturing you the way that they claim that they are.
Abusive relationships are all about like somebody outside of you telling you what it feels like, as opposed to you being allowed to have that space, somebody else giving you your boundaries.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that Doug did a lot of. He would tell me, what was reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I finally was like, wait a minute. I'm like in the Truman Show. Like, I'm in like a scary Truman Show. This is not reality. This is reality. What I'm feeling. This is reality. Yeah, and it does take emotional maturity to listen to yourself and know what's what. But it's important to allow yourself that time to get to that point.
Because not only were you a child, you were a child and a wife, like a 10th grader and a wife, but you were in a relationship with someone who was an alcoholic.
I didn't know that at the time. So he, great at grooming, because he was perfect. There was nothing wrong with him. He was lovely. He was beautiful. It's a beautiful spirit. And then, slowly starts revealing his cards, because I think it's like safety, because you have control over the person. So it's like, now you can kind of like start revealing yourself. But I eventually started realizing he was an alcoholic, I think about a year into our relationship, and it got really, really scary. Really scary. The control started showing itself a little more, and I started feeling just like, holy shit, like, I don't really have any control here. Like, I really have none. And he was really good at, revealing himself slowly when he chose to.
My experience with alcoholic actors is that they get really angry when they drink. Is that something that you experienced?
Yeah, he was very angry. Yeah, mainly anger. Yeah, just outbursts, just dripping with venom. Really, he was just so mean. Screaming in my face all night long, spitting all over me, teeth kind of up against my jaw. I would be in the corner of the room or whatever I was, just bunched up, crying, and I couldn't move. I mean, when I tried to move, he would, say, "What, you're gonna hit me?" Scream. What, what, you're gonna hit me? Call the cops. And so I was overpowered. It was terrifying. This went on through most of our relationship. Yeah, I don't like talking about it because I get really, just those memories. It's just, I still have through a lot of, I'm at the very beginning of like where I was like right now, like 10 years ago. I feel like I'm like 10 years ago right now, like kind of at that point of healing. But yeah, it was scary. It was so lonely. I mean, I had such a lonely existence, like on the nights where he would decide to just be abusive. It was just very lonely because I felt like I had nobody, and then on top of that, you have the media and you have, not knowing who to trust, and people are, talking about you in interviews and you don't know who did. And so I was just very, very, very lonely. And especially those nights that I was being abused, it was very lonely. I don't wish it upon anybody.
Do you have peers your age that you could talk to, even like your friends back home? I know you were homeschooled, but did you have people that were like 16 that you felt safe with?
I was just so closed off from everyone. I had friends, yes, but I feel like I was so groomed that I was just kind of like in a cocoon. Like I'd kind of go into an emotional cocoon and I would stay there, which I still do. Which, quite frankly, I still, kind of just like, and I have a few, just a very few people that I'm open with. But no, back then I would just go like so tight into myself. And I would, like I said, I've said this, but I would leave the house in the Hollywood Hills at like 2 a.m, 3 a.m, when it would finally stop and you would fall asleep. And I would take a bottle of wine and I would wander the streets of the Hollywood Hills, and I would hide behind trash cans. I would cry. I would I was just so like lonely and scared of the world and groomed. It was so ugly. And I talk a lot about this in my book. But it was just so, oh my God, it led to some really, really, really traumatizing experiences for me.
And I can imagine, like, if you're with somebody who's raging out like that and so frightening, that it would feel like maybe comforting to drink too, because you mentioned.
Yeah, and he introduced me to alcohol. I mean, it was like normal, he started drinking more and more, and then for me to just kind of like feel like an adult, I would do it too. Look at me drinking a glass of wine, and it just kind of turned into a coping mechanism, the only coping mechanism.
Did it start like really early in the day, the drinking?
No, it would probably start around 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And it was normal. It's like, oh, it's not 5 o'clock. Some people are drinking at it's 6 o'clock. And yeah, I mean, and it would make him so mean, like so mean. And it was, a way for me just to kind of like cope and also feel like an adult. It was just a really bad situation.
Do you speak to Doug at all anymore?
No, I do not. No. I am moved on. I am a zillion light years away. I'm like on my own planet. He doesn't exist in my world at all.
So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the songs that you also wrote as Ember.
It was during the time when Doug moved away. He like moved to Michigan. And again, I already said this to the Daily Beast, but I feel like it was definitely a way to just kind of like be like, oh, okay, let's see if you can survive on your own. I'm going to take off and we're going to see if you can survive without me. And I did. So I kind of like created this alter ego named Ember, and I put my hair red, and I just kind of like used it as a I don't know, it was very healing for me to just let everything out. And a lot of it was very dark, and I didn't want to do it under my name because I just don't, want to seem like I'm just this wet paper bag, just like really depressed all the time. But yeah, so I wrote a lot of different songs under her, and it was fun. I had a really fun time. I performed at Peppermint, and a lot of fans came out, and surprisingly so many people knew the words, and I was just like, oh my god, what the heck, this is crazy, but it was fun. And then I love music and I love creating. I'm a creative at heart. I love writing music. I love creating. And I came out with Pleasure just recently. I wanted something fun, light, and something that people can dance to. It was a lot of fun, and we did the music video. Alexei Figurov, who's an amazing Russian director, came over to Los Angeles and we filmed it. And it was a lot of fun. You should go check it out. Pleasure.
What's your writing process like when you're working on music?
I like to meditate before, so I have Reiki and stuff like that. I'm really into meditating. And it's like the only thing that's really helped me like turn down all of the other noise. And so yeah, I do that first, and then after like an hour or two I start writing. And it's funny sometimes what comes out. I mean, sometimes it's like really, really fun, crazy things. Other times really depressive, and it's like therapy for me. Yeah, and that's kind of my writing process.
Does it feel easy when you're actually like writing a song, or do you feel like it's hard to get it out?
Sometimes it just depends, you know, how connected you are to the muse, I think. Like how, you know, how inspired you are to write. Sometimes it's really difficult to write, and I had a lot of like writer's block with writing my book. And yeah, so I don't know, I just kind of like let it out, go with the flow, and I don't force anything. But writing is really, just in general, writing, I really like writing.
And you mentioned your book as well. Do you have an idea of when you feel like it'll be ready to come out? Is it going to be like another year of writing?
Yeah, it's taking longer than I wanted it to take. I've had more experiences than I thought I had. I'm like, I'll get this done in 2 weeks. It's fine, get it out. It's been like a year now, a year and a half, and I'm not done yet. So I kind of like stopped trying to put a date on it, just to manage expectations. But it's definitely being worked on. I'm hoping it will be out in the next year, but we'll see.
It takes so long. Like just
It's crazy. It takes, like, I had no concept. I thought I was just gonna write 3 pages. But no, it's definitely going to be a really great book, and it's going to help a lot of people, I think, heal and hopefully save lives. I mean, I have so many people writing me telling me how I've helped them, which is so crazy, because I just, like, I don't know, I just feel like I've been so into like my life and my traumas. I don't really see how it's affecting people necessarily, but it's affecting people in a really amazing way. And so many people are so supportive and just mutual. So yeah, I really believe that this book they're gonna love, 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 love.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about the memoir?
No, I think you covered so much. I just want everybody to know that they're not alone. I mean, I'm kind of living proof that you can get through your darkest days, and just stay true to yourself and listen to yourself, and yeah, just love yourself. That's the most important thing.
That's great, Courtney. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
You're so sweet, and you really came up with the questions. So I'm gonna have it now. But it's good. It's so important to get out there. So thank you for using your platform as well to spread awareness. It's really important.